lonely, lonely. I really need my talking.
Hey.
Yay.
I don't know if anybody heard that or didn't hear that, but it says let's begin. It just doesn't say we're live yet. So let me try to refresh here.
Do we need some music?
There you go. The almost live music.
What did it do? I don't know what it did.
Oh yeah, mix it up. That's right.
What did it undo? It gave me a copy of the key again.
Did it now? It doesn't show you on your profile that you're live.
That's really weird. Okay, so let me just go back here. Try it again. Just get a new key. Like I said, it might find out. That was a good intro. We'll have to get that one again. Thank God I recorded it. My God, I always told me I should record every damn thing. Every
Yes.
damn thing.
Every damn thing. Because it's important. Sometimes you hear new things when you're listening to old things.
Oh, boy, stuff is getting forked.
IT. Forking for
IT.
Who would fork
Forking
for?
Shad Hammond.
IT.
Shad Hammond.
IT.
That's a loop. Gee.
IT.
You got to do it like Ann's. Shh, 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 shh. she does it like a fucking tire that's about to explode.
Oh, okay.
On Explore Band map, go back to me. Why are you doing this crap to me?
What time is it? Now
10:20.
10:20. Okay, I'll probably hang out till about 11:30ish. Yeah, I gotta bounce.
How's the work looking for the week?
Oh, it was great. Lots of stuff coming in commercial wise.
Did you make any progress with your little one?
Yeah, I
Dentist?
called the dentist and set up an emergency appointment for Monday.
Yeah.
I'm like, emergency for next week? That's weird. So yeah, we're gonna hash it out. And I'll be like, that's a crack. Her tooth is wiggling.
No matter what it is, listen to the one who says what they feel. Don't let them tell her what she feels.
Yeah, literally was in the middle of that. I'm like, and then I had to do, you gotta take her word for it.
And they're probably more reluctant than usual, because usually, like dentistry, they're willing to do work. You know, they don't want to pull things that are unnecessary, but they're willing to do work necessary. They might be more reluctant right now, just because of COVID over the last couple of years.
That could be.
But don't let that stop you from being a dad.
Yeah.
Say, fix my baby.
Mm-hmm.
Preparing again.
And if it is just a little notch or a crack, they'll probably just paste it up, because they can do that these days.
Yeah.
It's like your guitar is talking to you.
Hello.
Put your camera inside.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Oh yeah,
A guitar cam coming out the hole.
that'd be cool.
If you stick it inside the hole and then you play, you get to actually watch as like
The strings
vibrate
vibrate.
and like.
Right.
Oh, that could be misconstrued in so many ways. If you stick it inside the hole, then you can watch it play.
Andy's not listening to this conversation.
Well, it's about context.
Puts the camera in its hole.
Or it does not get the notion.
Else he gets to pick again. Alright. Hit go live. Let's see what happens now. Ooh, got it.
So if you got the video ready, once we go live, Glenn, describe what the video is. We'll play the video. That'll give them some time to sit down. And
Sounds good.
oh, and I'll do that happy birthday shout out to Dallas.
And
Actually,
we're live.
I'll do it
on
after the
Talkin
video.
IT with Glenn, Tony, and the sewer snake. Let's do it, guys.
Let's do it. Thank
Yes, special guest Slither
you. Hey.
sneaking in before Saturday.
Yeah. Oh, next Saturday's gonna be fun.
Oh, great job with that inaugural Saturday.
Yeah,
Yes. What does that mean? The inaugural?
First Saturday. The first
Oh
one.
yeah, that's right. Last Saturday was the first Saturday.
In
That
the
all started
beginning.
That was a great time. I had fun.
Yeah, Saturday is a fun night to actually wind out like that.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times I won't be around because I'll be out doing stuff for the band. But when I am around, I'm definitely in for a Saturday.
Yeah. If you're home and you're bored, watch the sewer.
Nice.
7 p.m. on the Saturday night in the sewer.
Got to get the clap in there.
There you go.
So this is Talkin Shhh, and I'm always talking.
Well, you're
So.
good with the shit though.
Yeah.
Nobody
That's
else I
true.
know has a shit whiteboard. So
Yeah, that's true.
Exactly. One of the things we were talking about was a video that we're thinking about playing over here, and it was by Signals. Let's see, Signals Music Studio. Yep,
yeah, and this is dad related.
it is related to dads. It is writing powerful Dorian dad rock in 6/8. So it's about writing in different modes and how you can get different feels from different modes. Instead of just writing in major or writing in minor, you're picking one of the other modes and getting a feel from that mode and how what to write with it and how you can write with it.
Which
Pretty good
Joe, you're always in these modes. That's one thing I've been noticing as I try to figure out like what you're doing. You're always in one of these modes.
Cool. Okay. Yeah, it might be the way I tune. I tune to drop D, and there's some chords that you can't get it when you're in standard tuning.
And it's the way you your chords, the way you slide in your chords is where you utilize those lower fifths and sevenths.
Okay. I can't wait to see this then.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm curious what dad rock is.
Dad rock.
We'll see how he defines it.
My guess is this is what our today's dads are listening to, or the rock that they grew up on.
Probably.
Gives you that feel.
Hey, it's me, Jake, and in this video we're going to do some serious songwriting, riff building, and music making with a strict focus on the Dorian mode. Dorian is a really versatile and interesting tonality. It can pop up in a lot of different interesting ways and has a lot of unique characteristics, but unfortunately in this channel I've really only highlighted the jazzy and bluesy funky aspects of it. The last time it popped up was in my video 7 Modes and 7 Musicians, where Amy Nolte played a killer piano lead on top. And if we go way back to my video on Hemiola, I did a Dorian jam there as well, and you can hear it has this smoky salsa jazz club kind of vibe to it. But Dorian's capable of way more than just jazz, blues, and funk. In this video, what I'd like to do is harness the power of Dorian to create some wistful Dorian dad rock. Now, dad rock is a pretty nebulous term. My definition of that would be mainstream rock that's easy to listen to, easy to headbang to. It's not too deep or insightful, and it's certainly not too complicated or difficult.
Oh,
And I
that's
like that
my
stuff.
rock.
You know, there's nothing wrong with liking things that aren't of the highest quality. That's why I still enjoy Taco Bell. So to get started writing riffs in Dorian, I do want to have an idea of what I'm shooting for. What is my goal here? You know, what key am I going to be in? Those kinds of things. To pick a Dorian key, I'd like to think about the fact that anytime you're in a Dorian tonality, you're going to be focusing on a minor chord or a minor 7th chord. So what minor chord do I want to be focusing on as a guitar player? Well, E minor is a good bet.
And this
That's
is
an
what
easy
you
chord.
do, Joe.
A minor as well, and D minor. Those are all chords that are simple to play on my guitar, and I have free fingers that I could do something else with, and they also use open strings, which gives me a little bit more versatility if I wanted to do something like an acoustic riff. And what you're going to see is we're actually going to end up writing a riff that's built for the acoustic guitar, and we're going to spend quite a bit of time writing this riff. But once that's done, it's really going to open up the doors for writing the rest of the song. So most of this video is going to be sculpting just this first riff, and then after that you'll see the other parts of the song are really just going to melt into place. I ended up choosing the D Dorian key, so that means I'm going to start on a D minor chord. And just in case you're unfamiliar with this Dorian concept, remember I have a video on Dorian, but I also have all this information illustrated on my Ultimate Modal poster. You can check the description below to find a link to get that. Now that I've got my D minor chord, let's try to come up with the Dorian chord progression. And the heart of Dorian is absolutely that major 4 chord. When you have a minor tonic like D minor, and then all of a sudden you play a major 4 chord like G major, well, there is really the heart and soul of Dorian. Inside that G major, we have a B natural, and that B natural is the natural 6th in the key of D. So really, if you can basically summarize the Dorian key just with a minor 1 and a major 4. But I'd like to do something a little more interesting than that. So here's what I opted for. I went my tonic chord, my D minor, and then I dropped down to the flat 7, C major, and then I brought in the G major, and then I went straight back to D minor. Just those 4 chords is what I ended up focusing on. D minor, C major, G major, and D minor. Now that I've got a chord progression, let's think about rhythm so we can make this interesting. In my last video, we were writing in 4/4 time, and I've never really done a lesson on how to write in 6/8, so let's do a little mini lesson on composing in 6/8 time. To get started, I'm just going to play my D minor chord, and I'm going to count 6 eighth notes, but I'm going to count them like they were quarter notes, like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. To get that 6/8 bounce, it's important to accent the 1 and the 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. From there, try adding in some 16th notes, but count them like 8th notes, like this. You'd have 1, 2, and 3, and 4, 5, and 6, and 1, 2, and 3, and 4, 5, and 6. And you can do different variations of that. 1, 2, and 3.
Oh, that really 4, helps 5, me to 6, understand
1, 2,
that
and 3,
timing.
4, 5, 6. By dropping some of the downbeats, you'll end
Yeah,
up
definitely
with
is
some
tough
syncopation.
otherwise.
1, 2, and 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, and 4, 5, and 6. 1, 2, and 4. So really, any combination of those strumming patterns is going to work fine in 6/8, as long as you've got that nice bounce between the 2 halves of your 6/8 pattern. What I ended up settling on is a very simple 1, 2, and 3, and 4, 5, and 6. 1, 2, and 3, and 4, 5, and 6. Also, as a guitar player, it's a good idea to only play the bass notes sometimes, just to kind of get a little bit more of that bounce going. So I've got 1, 2, and 3, and 4, 5, and 6, and 1, 2, and 3, and 4. I could even alternate the bass. Oh. There you go. And it gets, once again, you can hear that kind of that storytelling, adventurous kind of vibe going, 6/8 time works really good for any time you're trying to kind of keep the story moving. I think it works really good for folk
That actually
music,
makes
and
me
I think
want
6/8
to
combined
write
with
6/8
Dorian
now.
is like a perfect combination if you want to kind of get some tale-telling vibes
Up the
going.
bounce.
So now I've got my strumming pattern, I've got my chord progression. Combining the two gives us this: D minor, C major, G major, D minor. And that sounds awesome. But I kind of got sick of all that D minor, so at the very last moment, I crammed in a really quick C major like this. 1, 2, and 3, and 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, and 3, and 4. And that just helps break up the monotony of not having two measures of D minor all the way through. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1. And I love that chord progression. I love the way that sounds. But now it's time to start writing some riffs, because we haven't even touched any riffs yet. We've just been talking about chords this whole time. But I have to bring up this fact that if you get chords and if you know chords, then riff writing is going to be a piece of cake. Because really, a lot of the riffs that we love and enjoy are all basically just outlining chord progressions. So, I mean, you can write riffs not thinking about chords at all. I do that kind of thing all the time. But a lot of times, once you look at your riff, you'll realize, oh yeah, the reason this sounds so good is because it's outlining some type of chord progression. So I needed to make a riff that outlined this chord progression. And here's what I did to do that. On the first chord is a D minor, so I play a D note. And when that second measure comes around, it's the chord C. So I wanted to make sure my riff played the note C. When my third measure comes around for G, I wanted to make sure my riff is playing the note G. And you can guess when my fourth measure D comes out, I play the note D. So all I had to do as a riff writer is find a way to bridge those gaps. How do I get from this note to this note to this note? I obviously want to be thinking of the Dorian scale the whole time. So if I'm in 6/8, how do I get from here, D, to here, C? Well, I have a whole measure to get there. So I could do something like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1. And then if I wanted to, I could just hang out there, and then I could just go to the G. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1. Right? So there's a million options I could do. Basically, I mean, I could spend all day coming up with ways to get from these notes. You know, what is my path to get through these notes? Here's what I settled on. It went from D, and
That's
then
an
it was
excellent point.
A, G, F,
Yeah.
C.
Target
And then I
oriented.
played a quick E,
Yeah.
and then G.
You
and
don't
then
have to
B,
cram
C,
it all in
D,
one measure.
F, D. And then a little bit of, ornamentation. It turned into this. D, A, G, F, D, C, E, G, B, C, D, F, D. That is my riff. And what's cool is I can combine that with the chords I had already been writing. Really, all I've got to try to do is play those notes and then strum in between. And what I'm left with is this. And that was the
It
riff
gives
that
them
I
a
ended
chance
up
to
writing.
talk
It's an acoustic riff.
with those
It's meant to be
notes.
strummed and played at the same time.
Yep.
And I really, really liked it. To me, the riff was done. However, it's got a little bit
Talking
of a gap
between
here at
the
the end that I
chords.
really don't like. I don't like after this. There's nothing going on. And I felt it needed something there. So I just did a throwaway lick. Just something to kind of fill up the space. And it's just pentatonic minor. It's a pentatonic minor lick that just goes... And pentatonic minor is great when you're in the Dorian mode, because if you take the second note out of the Dorian mode and the sixth note out of the Dorian mode, well, hey, you got a pentatonic minor scale. So anytime you're in a Dorian tonality, it's heavily advised you try playing around with pentatonic, because it's going to fit in there just fine. It's certainly not going to promote that Dorian feel, because it doesn't have that sixth in there, but it works great, and it gives you that bluesy pentatonic minor feel. So the entire riff now sounds like this.
And if the
D
guitars
minor,
didn't do it, the bassist could have done it there.
C,
Yep,
G,
shared the job.
D, and then again. And I think that sounds like $1 million. And I also thought it would serve great as the intro to a song. So here's what I ended up doing, is just recording that exact part on an acoustic guitar. After that, I thought it would be a really easy layer to just double the riff an octave higher on the acoustic guitar. So forget about the strums, just take a listen to that riff, and let's play it an octave higher, and double it on top, and hear what that sounds like. Now I figured that would be the very beginning of the song, and let's just do it all over again, but add a little bit of bass guitar, add a little bit of drums, and some really, really quiet glockenspiel. I know that's a trendy instrument that keeps popping up these days, and I thought it would work really well here. once that's done, I think it's a pretty obvious choice to go into something like a verse section. And to write that verse section, all we had to do was remove all the riffage. Instead of doing all those ham-runs and pull-offs and stuff like that, let's just simplify it and just do the strumming. D minor, C major, G major, to D minor. And all I did was add a simple drum beat underneath that.
That's the real meat in the song.
And it kind of anticipates the other parts and leaves room for them.
Makes you appreciate
and for the
the
bass
licks.
line, the bass really just kind of floats around the root notes of each of those chords. Nothing too complicated. However, there's just little moments where it steals from the riff we just wrote. And I kind of like that. I like when instruments kind of borrow from each other or different sections borrow from each other. The astute listener might actually recognize, oh, hey, the bass is now doing the guitar part we just heard earlier. But it should be subtle enough where it doesn't stick out and you might not notice it on the first or second listen. So now I've got this really cool groove section. It's just begging for some vocals on top. I know in the last video I said I don't want to do singing or vocals because it takes too much time, but I really couldn't resist in this case. I thought I could get away with some James Hetfield style singing on top of this, so I wrote some lyrics, and the melody is all in the Dorian scale. It doesn't leave Dorian, and the lyrics don't make a lot of sense. They just feel good. I like the way the words sounded next to each other, so I just kept it like that.
In the cold of the morning, far north of here, the man in the mask moves along.
Now that verse section could continue even longer. We could do it 2 more times, but I decided to change things up.
Now that could be a Metallica song.
If we keep doing the same chord progression over and over. And right now, all we've heard is that same loop of D minor, C, G, D minor. So one thing I like to do is instead of starting on our tonic, right? We keep starting our progressions on D minor. Let's start on something other than our tonic. Don't start on the 1 chord. And I'm going to pick that 4 chord, that big 4 chord. If we land there, if we start there, it should be like a really refreshing surprise. And if we hang out there longer than we have been before, right now we've been switching chords every measure. So what if we hang out there for 2 measures? It should sound pretty different. So here I am on my D minor chord, C major, and this is for our verse section. But we want to change things. We're expecting D minor, and that's what we get for the verses. But this time, instead of that C taking me to D minor, we'll have that C take us to the G. You hear how nice and
the C
refreshing that is.
leads
Back to D
perfectly
minor,
there.
We'll do some suspended 2.
Yeah, it does.
D minor, suspended 2. And now G. And I wanted to build things up here. So the chords that I brought in were B flat, and then C.
And that's the construction of a great bridge.
So what happened there at the
That's
end,
an awesome way to build
that
a
B flat
bridge.
major chord is actually not in Dorian. I did kind of break the tonality here a little bit. B flat just comes from D minor. I just borrowed it from D minor. That's the 6th chord in D minor. And there's nothing wrong with doing this. I really encourage you to not stick yourself just to one tonality and make yourself, only use the 7 notes of major or Lydian. Feel free to mix it up. And I think here's a great example. I loved the Dorian feel. I loved how everything sounded up until this point. But I also wanted to hear 6, 7, 1. That's a really common cadence. Your flat 6, your flat 7, and your minor 1. We hear that kind of thing all the time. And why shouldn't I be able to use it today? Just because I'm in Dorian? Screw that. I want to use it. So I'm going to use it. I came from that D minor to the G. And even though it's going to temporarily put me into a new key, or an accidental, there's that B flat major, C major, and then back to D minor. Since there's no harmonies on top of that part, it's going to be pretty easy to accommodate. I'm just going to have my vocals, not clash with that chord. If there was any B flats, or if there were any Bs that were being played over that, we'd want to switch them to B flats just so they match that chord. Now that obviously builds us up towards something, but what does it build us up to? Well, I decided for a chorus, but with just no singing. So let's take that riff we wrote at the beginning, the acoustic riff, and let's just electrify it instead by throwing distortion on it and kind of playing it 1 note at a time. Little bit of vibrato on each note, and we'll also have power chords playing those same chords in the background while the acoustics are strumming. It should be this really big, epic dad rock chorus. I'm kind of thinking of Simple Man by Leonard Skinner, just a little heavy. Now, if this were a real song that I was trying to get produced for the radio, I would end up basically repeating everything. I'd go back to my intro, do another verse, I'd make both verses longer, and then I'd, bring in a bridge section. For this video, what I decided to do was just go straight into a guitar solo. And once again, I didn't really need to write anything new. All I had to do was just keep that groove section going, keep those chords flowing. Let's get rid of the riffs again, that way there's space for a guitar solo, and basically just play the Dorian scale on top of that section. It's gonna sound like $1,000,000. And once the solo's done, I just go back to the intro to close things off. So now let's listen to these sections all together as I proudly present to you my debut Dorian dad rock demo, Willing to Bleed.
Here, the man in the mask moves along. Well, he's looking for someone who feeds on the fear of knowing his right from his wrong. There he goes in another direction again. There he goes, chasing the one thing he needs, in a heart that is willing to bleed.
So I'm not a dad, but that felt like dad rock to me, and I really dig it. Before I close out this video, though, I really want to go into
James
some
Hetfield
detail
singing
about this whole Dorian versus Minor thing. There's a lot of people that would say, Jake, you're not writing with Dorian, you're just writing with Minor, and you're using a lot of the major
Was that him singing?
And I understand that perspective.
Yeah,
and
I
also
think so.
hate that perspective.
Jeez.
I feel like it totally misses out on the idea of a tonality. The idea of saying, I'm only going to use these 7 notes, and when I do that, look at all the cool colors that appear, look at all the cool imagery and all the cool flavors and tastes that come out of that. When you just use the 7 notes of major, we know how that feels. It's very sweet, very bright, sprinkly cupcakes and stuff like that. But, this is totally different. The 7 notes of Dorian give you this really smoky Western
sprinkly
kind of feel,
cupcakes.
and it's not
How's that
major.
for Angify?
So I want
to
me personally, I just think it's really helpful to pretend like a Dorian tonality is its own key, just like major could be its own key. And then later on, yeah, you can say, okay, I'm really in the key of C major. But to me, it's just stupid to say we were writing in the key of C major today. That's just dumb, because nothing really felt majorish, nothing felt that happy. It's not like we spent a lot of time on the C chord. So I feel like the best description of what we did was writing in D Dorian and then borrowing a little bit from D minor. And other people might say, no, you were actually in D minor the whole time and you borrowed from D Dorian. Whatever, they're very, very similar, they're very close, but so much of this was the 7 notes of D Dorian that I think
that's
it's fair
more
to say
perception
is
and
in the
opinion
D Dorian
there.
key, even though I know that's not a thing. A music theory
different ways of
professor
looking at
will
it.
fail you for saying the key of D Dorian. But I don't care, I'm not a professor, I think it makes sense. But it can certainly get a little hazy. Are you in minor? Are you in Dorian? Which one are you borrowing from?
It only gets confusing when you're telling somebody else
answer. And I'm fine with that. I really don't care. As long as you understand what you're doing and as long as you can convey the information to somebody, I think that's all that matters.
There you go.
But I think a fun little song to take a look at and take a listen to figure out what key are you really in. And it's really just a good usage of the power between minor and Dorian and that major 4 chord, that natural 6th, is the song Toss a Coin to Your Witcher.
Toss a coin to your witcher, O Valley of Plenty.
Really nice
I
little folksy
like
medieval
that.
song. It's popular again now. Take a listen to it and see if you can figure out how and why it works and where minor shows up versus where Dorian shows up. So I hope you enjoyed this video and I hope you learned something. If you did enjoy this
Oh,
video, please thank
many
my
things.
awesome Patreon supporters for sponsoring these videos. It's the only reason these videos exist. If you'd like to join them, there are links below in the description. But if you can't do that, please just a like, subscribe, or comment all helps me out. So thanks for watching and I'll see you again next time.
I'm going to go there later and make sure I like and comment.
Definitely.
Yeah, Robert Foy showed me this guy here. Awesome. Very informative young man.
Foy's a radar for knowledge like that.
For sure. For sure.
And that video really was nicely timed and relevant because when I'm playing with you, I've been finding that challenge of trying to figure out where you're adjusting in the scale. Like I can narrow in on the scale that you're playing in, but you do a lot of these techniques he talks about with the Dorian and the Phrygian. Is that the one where they
That's
do
it. That's
do the
it. Yeah.
sevenths,
Phrygian.
Glenn?
Phrygian is for the metal mostly, I think, is what he was talking about for that one.
Yes.
Was Phrygian Morse code metal was the one we watched with him a couple weeks back.
And a lot of the things I've been trying to figure out in your different songs have been in those two modes.
Yeah.
It is very relevant. I'm beginning to understand. And, and Snave was mentioning, you know, like this is a lot of theories. A lot of the band lab users might be like, whoa, that's over my head when they hear these terms. But the funny thing is that you can be doing them and not even know.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because you're looking for that sound, and all's theory does is help to give you a name for those techniques that you're likely already doing.
Yeah. Well, you get your a regular rhythm going, and it pleases the left brain. It's like, oh, okay, this is nice. And then all of a sudden, you get that variation, boom, and then your right brain is happy too. And
You're looking for that change. You're on a chord, and you're looking for that change, and you try a different. You move your fingers, and it either sounds good or it doesn't. And eventually, you find that chord that you want to go to, and then the next chord that you want to go to. And what he was talking in there about, like how he laid out those chords that he wanted to play in the 6/8 time.
Yeah.
That's all a part of song construction. Finding those chords you want to hit or those notes you want to go through, and the time that you want to do them in.
Yeah, even the differences in rhythm that he did there were very key for when you're making a song. Because if you'd done the rhythm any one of those 4, 5, 6 different ways that he tried, it would change the song completely.
Yeah, he helped me to really appreciate 6/8. 6/8 is not like if I'm going to write a song, I'm not thinking like, you know what, I want to go in 6/8. It's not my go-to. Yeah. But after his explanation, I was like, damn, I can't wait to go try that now that I've got this rhythm in my head.
Yep. And not just 6/8, but just being able to go through any of the less standard timings or the timings that you don't see as much in the common music that you normally would listen to.
Yeah, I have to start practicing other times. That's how you get out of your like box. Right now, everything I'm trying to write, it's my go-to times and my go-to scales. I'm trying
4/4.
to like 4/4 and C
it's
major and A minor.
It's always there for you. That's where
the whole C major and A minor thing is another one of those points that he was making in there as well. Is that C major and A minor, that's all the same notes. It's just a question of the perspective. It's a question of the way you're looking at it. You can play something in A minor that sounds very sad. You could play something in C major that sounds very happy. And that's a lot of that is because it's major or minor, but again, it's the same exact note. So it's really just about the intent and where you're landing.
There's that general perception that like major means happy and minor means sad. And that's not the case all the time.
Yep. In fact, that's one of the ones that I would ask Cousin Jeff sometimes as I go by and play me something that's happy in minor or play me something that's sad in major, and then he can do it. And I'm like, how do you do that?
Well, that's a good way to challenge yourself. To understand how minor can be happy. Challenging yourself like that is a great exercise. You will write stuff out of your box.
Yep. help
Good
push you out of
deal.
your comfort zone, try to write other things, and yeah, just to open up the possibilities. It doesn't, like you have to write everything in 6/8, like you have to write everything in Dorian, but this is just an example. So when you see that example is there, there's also all these other modes, and there's all these other tricks that you could do, or different ways you can change your songwriting. So it's not just 3 chords in major or 3 chords in minor and go.
Well, knowing those mode
Mhm.
options really gives you different directions you can go in.
Mm-hmm. For
Definitely.
Sure. I
I
find
did
that.
notice. Mhm.
I'm sorry, Glenn. I didn't mean to talk over you.
No, please.
I find that a good song has both major and the minor going on. You
Yeah.
give that chorus the major feel, and then
Yes.
the verse has got that minor, and then you got everything
Or
going.
vice versa.
Yeah.
Get that change
No
up,
pun
yeah.
intended.
Yep.
And that's where the bridge, like what, every song doesn't necessarily need a bridge, but a bridge is so useful when you want to glue your parts together. When you are dealing with those major versus minor choruses, or the other way around, the bridge is your opportunity to shift that mood as you go in those directions. The build up, or the like moment before a massive explosive chorus.
Build up is an important point too. A lot of people neglect dynamics when they're writing stuff, and they're just, everything is, it's all this loud or it's all this soft or whatever, but they're not coming up or going down in the volume. And the build up is important. Like you're getting quieter and quieter, and that brings the listener in, and then you're getting really loud, and it changes the whole dynamic if you really get dynamic in your playing or in your songwriting.
A good songwriter is paying attention. If there are words, if you got a singer and there's words, the build-ups in the music should kind of relate to whatever's going on in the storytelling or the words.
Yep. You definitely convey a lot of information.
That's where you hear the synchronicity in good songwriting. A songwriter who their music and their words feed off of each other's moods and build up synchronous. A listener feels that and hears it and connects with that naturally, whereas sometimes you'll hear songs where the music and the words are actually in different places, and a listener can get confused with that. It can either like make a song feel weird when it shouldn't, because you subliminally know when things don't match.
Yeah. And that happens sometimes too. Like when I'm writing songs with people, and I write songs with people all the time that, some of them don't know music theory, some of them know more, and I'm never sure, how much anybody knows when they're writing stuff. And when you're hearing it, your ear will pick things out, and it could be, oh, I like what you did there with that different note that they put in there, and it could just be that they didn't realize it was supposed to be a minor versus a major or what have you. Like that's the kind of thing where it can be completely accidental or it can be completely intentional, but it can still sound awesome either way, right?
Yeah, some of
Right.
the best music was made from happy accidents.
Yep. And somebody like the guy that we were just watching in that video, like he would do those things with intent. Like I used this note because I wanted this specific effect or this specific emotion or this, to evoke that thought. Whereas other people, they might just stumble upon it. Like you were saying, like they hit, this fret, no, not that fret. Oh, that sounds good. I'll use that one. And, they stumble into it and it sounds great and they use it. So it's good when it comes around that way. Experiment. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the key.
That's the funnest part about music is the experiment.
Mm-hmm.
And speaking of experimenting, like how you put together a song, we've been playing with your looper for the last week or so, and watching you put together a song in it has been amazing to watch.
It's fun. It's quick too. It's a lot of people are real proficient with Cakewalk and their favorite doll and all that, with the computer, but sometimes you just want to fucking just rock out a little bit and not have to grab a mouse.
And this is much better for like performance. Nobody wants to have to lug a computer and all that crap onto a stage or open mic, but like, a nice little floor looper like you have, you can not only build your songs while you're at home, but you can go out and perform them like you're a full band.
Pretty much, yeah. Once you figure it out.
Yeah, it's a little bit mentality. You have to be thinking in parts as you construct your loops, And then the other half is just the technical challenge.
Yeah.
3 different pedals.
Right.
And that's a nice one too.
Yeah, that is.
300 is it?
RC300
Mm-hmm.
by Boss. And it's
Nice.
got basically three channels here that you can play with, and you can overdub on top. So that really there's
Oh, so you can loop
unlimited.
on. You can basically comp on top of your loop and just keep adding to it.
you can.
Oh, yeah.
Now
Yes.
that's powerful.
Yeah.
On each of the 3. And you can
Yes.
individually enable or disable each of the 3 as you're going through the song.
Yes.
And you're not actually using more storage doing that, because all it's
Nope.
doing is like
Mhm.
merging it with the same
Yes.
audio file.
Yeah, so
Wow,
you can
that's
thicken up-
super useful.
You can thicken up your backing track and then start laying down your lead and your vocals and all that good stuff. Right now I've got my guitar. I've got a guitar pedal going into this stereo, and then I've got a vocal pedal going to it as well, so I can record my guitar or my vocals at any point on any one of
Yeah,
those
you've
tracks.
got everything routing into this. I mean, everything in your room is pretty much going into it one way or
Pretty
another.
much. Yeah, it's an orgy going on there.
A sonic orgy.
Yeah, Sonic Orgy. That's my next band.
Oh, that's an album
That's a good
title.
Yeah. Right. But yeah, you guys are going to be getting down tonight about recording techniques and stuff. And this is just one of the many ways. You can jam out on this. If you don't like it, you can delete, as you go. And then when when you're done with it, you can hit write, and it'll save it to a card inside of it, and then you can flip over to the next channel. It's got several channels and several hours of recording on each channel. So
And this lends
Everything's
itself to
there.
the songwriting process at its simplest, not overly complicated. Like, boom, here's a riff on channel 1. I'm going to add a second riff on channel 2 that I can turn on and off.
Yeah.
And,
Right.
you start thinking in the parts that you should as you write the song.
Yeah.
I think so many people think songwriting is like, I'm just going to feel it out and lay down this track.
Right.
And there, I wrote a song.
right.
Sometimes that works, but if you really want to write the greatest hits that are out there,
Yeah.
you gotta kind of think out how you're gonna assemble your parts.
Yeah.
There's so many songs that I hear good potential. I hear good parts in the song, but I'm like, wow, they either stretch it too much here and not enough there.
Yeah.
This helps to really start to focus on your parts and
Yeah, it's great.
how many
practice.
times you're gonna repeat them.
Right. It's a great practice. You can do a bank and kind of practice your verse part, and then save that, go to the next one, do your chorus part, get that pretty much down, and then your next one, do the verse and the chorus. And then it gives you a chance to just noodle around and change your sounds. The hardest part about it is the timing of cutting
Well,
off that
it
loop.
comes with a drum machine too, right?
The drum aspect of it is very much like a metronome, and it keeps you right on sync.
Yeah.
It's just a
even
matter,
even if you're not using a drum track per se, if you actually just do a hi-hat on those, and you can always separate that track after you're done, right? Like it's one of those channels if you have it as a metronome.
Yep. And when we're talking about the base built-in rhythms it has here, those are awesome also because it gets you locked in for the timing, but you can also have the rhythm back out again. So you can have the rhythm in there and get your parts down, so you've got a consistent metronome essentially, but it doesn't sound like a metronome. It sounds like an actual drum,
Right.
drum loop
And
that you
then
got going.
pull it
and
out.
you can pull it out. Exactly. You can pull it out.
And you can mix it separately volume-wise too, which is awesome.
That's true
Yeah.
too. Yeah. Over here, you've got. I'm trying to get my microphone to work. So you got this area right here for track 1. There's track 2 and there's track 3, and they have their own volumes. These are kind of like output volumes to kind of keep them in,
Oh, that's nice.
in the right area they need to be. These are your.
It's nice
input
to have that
volumes.
adjustment. That's nice
Yeah.
to have that adjustment on the output side.
Yeah, so it's a little tricky to get your volume set because you want it to play back at the same volume that you played it in. So I just kind of keep these output volumes on. Man, my finger is huge. So I put
You're-
this.
You're a giant like Glenn.
How do you work those tiny knobs with such big fingers?
I know, man. It's so tough. But I'll put these. I'll put this large finger right here, and I'll move those around to about the middle. That way, and then it just works. I don't know. And I'll do my first track, and it'll be simple. I'll just kind of noodle around with the bass.
You typically start with like that first riff.
Yeah, something acoustic or bassy or something like that, and then I'll start building off of it. And I've actually wrote a lot of songs off of this machine here. And then I'll take it to the DAW. I'll take it to Cakewalk or Mixcraft or something like that.
And all the loops that you're doing in here, I mean, they are wave loops that you can literally plug into your computer as a drive and just suck those waves right off.
Right. Yeah. The only downfall is that I'm using a guitar effects processor, so that kind of locks in that sound. Now, if I was recording everything acoustically,
they're wet
they're
tracks,
wet
yeah.
for sure, and they get recorded wet. So that's the only downfall.
Well,
But,
it's not a big downfall in here, considering that it's like 96 kilohertz quality. This thing captures a nice, clean, wet track.
Yeah.
And if you want that effect in there, a wet track is not a bad track if the effect that's there is the effect that you want.
Yeah.
It's only a bad track if you want to be able to, I want to turn it off.
Right.
I want to try a different distortion.
Right.
If you're happy with that distortion, wet tracks are fine.
Right.
You
But
just have to take
like
it away
you said,
later. It's easier to add something later than it is to take something away. So it's better to start clean and add stuff later. But yeah,
You're just set for that Billie Jean beat, huh?
I know it is.
He's not kidding. He's like, he really wants to do it.
Yeah.
I started working on it today.
Awesome. I can't wait.
you got tap tempo there too. Yeah.
Yeah, it's got the tap tempo. You kind of feel it out.
Oh, nice. You can tap with your foot and set your tempo?
Yeah.
Nice.
So kind of thinking about what would go good with that. Let's see, I've got an acoustic sound going on here, so I'll just kind of hit this first button, which will start the recording, and then when I hit it again, it will stop the recording, but immediately start playing what I recorded on the next measure, if that makes any sense.
It also determines the full length of the loop. So like your first
True
loop
that.
is basically saying this is now the loop we're going to work with, and you can add layers on top, and then they'll use that same structure.
Yeah.
Oh, so once you establish like a
That's the
time
mother.
period of a
Right.
loop, and
Yes.
you can say, I'm going to add on top of that
Yeah.
loop, and that's what you're working with.
Right. So if I did a very short first loop, then I wouldn't have much time to noodle in some, record some more, like
It
an
kinda-
extended solo or something.
Yeah,
So
so you would want to start with what you feel is the longest chunk of a part.
exactly.
Like
Right.
this verse, I'm going to play for like 2 bars, and there's your loop.
And that was an example of
I
didn't
saw
come
what you
in
did.
right. Did you see that? Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds
Didn't
great. Though.
exactly come in right. Let's see if I can.
Yeah, I
Fix
like what
that.
you're playing too.
And the
I
levels-
knew it. I knew it wasn't going to loop right, but you know,
You really
I'm a little-
remind me of
I
like
got to warm
old,
up a little bit.
old Def Leppard. Like the old
Okay.
Def Leppard sound.
Yeah. Kinda.
Nice, yeah. And then just in that one loop, you go through several different feels. It's very cool.
So you tap it to stop recording, and then you actually have to tap it one more time because to stop recording more, if you know what I'm saying. Because
So
when it
you-
loops back
Otherwise,
around,
you
it's
just go
gonna
on to the
pick
next
up my
one.
microphone when I said, yeah.
Yep, yep.
So you use the second channel when you want to get something separate from the first loop. Otherwise, you record on top of the same channel.
Right.
You
Yeah.
can you can add to that loop on channel 1, or you can do a separate loop on 2.
Nice. That's what I wanted to hear. I was like, he's gonna add some. Go Joe.
Kinda.
I like how you're using the bass in your chord.
Kinda.
Really helps you to get in the groove too. I mean, at this point, you must be like just jumping right in with the next idea.
And what's cool is if I don't, okay, I have to make sure I'm not recording so it doesn't get this narration in there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, dude.
Building an
If you don't like what you played on any of the tracks, you just step on stop for like 3 seconds and it'll just take that track out for you.
Oh,
That last
undo?
does that
Yeah.
undo that last layer.
That's an
It'll undo the
undo.
last layer. Yeah.
Fucking awesome.
Yeah, stop is very cool. Kinda. So it got my voice in there. So then on the third track, I can do some vocals, you know?
And then you can just undo that layer if you wanted to.
Yeah. It's time to burn the witches. I said it's time. See, that was an example of a bad track that you want to undo.
Going through all the steps, yep.
Boom, that one's gone.
Desecrated the
Kinda.
masses, telling them what to do. And here lies her ashes after the burns are through. I said it's time to burn the witches. I said it's time to burn the witches.
Burn the witches.
Burn the witches.
I got to figure out how to pump in the audio from you guys so y'all can get in the looper too.
Desecrated the
Kinda.
masses, telling them what to do. And here lies
And there's that shitty singing again.
after the
I think it sounds good.
Oh, that's smooth. It's time.
to burn the witches. I said it's time
Burn, baby, burn, baby, burn, baby, burn. Burn, baby, burn. Burn, baby, burn.
That is sick.
I got to figure out how to pump in
I'm
the
totally
audio from you
feeling it.
guys so y'all can get in the looper too. Kind of.
Oh, he got that into the loop. You had me tripping the other night.
I'm sorry about that, dude. Hey, Nick Shepard's here in the show.
Sweet.
Nick Shepard's on the show.
Oh, it's like an effect.
Yeah. He's indistinguishable.
Sounds like a radio.
I also like the fact that you could individually fade out individual parts there, like the 1, 2, and the 3. You could have all three of them, and you could like bring one part down and back up, and the other part down and back up.
Yeah, that's cool for performances and stuff like that. Yeah, you can really get in there and build a song all the way up, and then
Plus,
tear it back down.
You've got that
cool.
you've got that big ass expression pedal over on the right there.
Yeah,
Like, what does that?
that does
normally,
a number of things.
Well, yeah, you can reprogram it. So, like, whether you're doing volume for something or whether you're doing like a swell on an effect.
A lot of times it'll be a wah. Also, if you hold the toe down, like if you click in at the toe, it'll change from a volume to a wah.
Mm-hmm. Pitch shift. It'll pitch shift your voice in there and stuff. It's powerful. Very powerful.
Pitch shift is really good. Also, if somebody's out of tune, like if you're trying to play along to a recording, for example, and it's out of tune, you could pitch shift to get it in. Or if somebody's playing in a drop, whatever tuning, you could drop down using that as well. Pitch shift down.
Yeah.
See, that's really become the modern transposition approach. People are just like sliding into tune that way, rather than learning to like play in a different key.
Right.
Yep. Now looking at the outputs on the back there too, I was trying to think if you can get outputs individually from each of the loops separately, or would you just do that after the fact?
You can. Yeah, nice. There's actually 3 outputs going on. It has a main output stereo, and then it has a sub output stereo, and then it has a headphone out stereo. So you could literally assign all 3 of those to go to different speakers or whatever you wanted to do, which I've actually run across needing that to happen because the drums and stuff. I had a electronic drum kit going into this thing one time, and I noticed the drums and everything. It was folding the speakers when we had the whole band playing, the guitars, the vocals, everything was coming out the same speakers. So I was like, let me, start busting these out to different speakers. And man, it made a world of difference.
Yeah. Everything not being all on top of itself. Now on the built-in effects there, I see that one red light kind of in the middle on the bottom there. Are those the effects like reverb, etc., all across there?
Are those the bass ones? The basic effects?
Yeah, they're pretty much basic. Yeah.
So whenever you choose a preset, whichever one of those that preset is using light up.
Pretty much, yeah.
I think it's you can engage one effect at a time. So like you can have the reverb or the delay or the whatever or the whatever.
That's what you guys were talking about.
Right.
Was it last night? Yeah, you were saying like you can only really engage one at a time. So you kind of have to like pick which one you really need.
Because you're going to pick it and you're going to use the dials for that one or what have you.
Right.
But you also run your effects as far as your guitar and stuff. You run those through another another boss, right? So it's not that big of a deal. Like that's nice.
I don't really use that.
Yeah, it's nice that it's there, and for the looper's
cool.
perspective, it's real useful. And I don't see that as a big limitation because your complex effects are being done through another preprocessor before they come in here.
Yeah.
Right.
And I've got
I like the lo-fi that's on there though, or the one that breaks
so
it up.
Cool.
There's a couple of them that sound really cool.
Yes, just to give it some variance because
and that lo-fi is popular as hell.
Yeah,
the lo-fi is popular as hell these days.
Right. But the whole idea is to just keep build something up, keep it moving, keep adding things and taking things away, and then the vocals pretty much make a song to me.
Well,
That's
using
the
this
life.
approach,
Yeah.
using this approach lends itself to getting into the groove of the song. Because I mean,
Mhm.
just while you were doing that, I was thinking up words, and I was like,
Yeah.
I'm ready to like work on this song after
Right on.
going through just listening to it a few times around.
Yeah. Right.
Yep.
It,
And that's the other thing with the loop is it gets it into your head and it gets you thinking other things like you were saying.
it
It's a great-
complements the songwriting process.
It's a
That's
great
a
practice
good
tool.
tool
Yeah.
for songwriting.
These guys are on the market. They've got smaller ones. You can pick up a smaller unit that will lay down tracks on top of itself.
Where's that? The other one you had?
Yeah,
the
you
RC30?
have
the little one?
You have the small version of this one, right?
Because this is the smaller one, the RC30. This is the one that I have here. Smaller one with the 2 pedals. There's even a smaller one, the RC3, I think it is. That's only the one track instead of the 2 or the 3. But this one has all 3 tracks. The one that he's grabbing right now has just the 2 tracks left and right, and then the super small. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
The 2 tracks left and right. That's the one I have.
Right.
And even that one has a lot of outputs, and it's built like a tank too. I mean, nice and solid.
It is. You could drop kick it down the road and it'll hang in there.
Yep.
I've tried it. So yeah, that's a powerful tool in itself. Just that little one there. It's got 2 tracks you can play with, and you can lay down 2 tracks on top of each other. So
and you can see the similarity in function between the one and the other, as far as the
Yeah, you
sliders
can
the
see-
same, the knobs the same, same to
You
same.
can see what they cut, like basically the things that they cut or added.
Yeah. You still got the volume control. There's your outputs, and there's your input volumes right here and here.
And they move the effects indicators to the side.
Yeah.
Yep, on the far left. Yep.
Yeah, I started with that little one. I got that guy. I think I paid like $60 at a pawn shop for it. I had
Really?
no idea what it was, and then when I took it home, I was playing with it. I was like, "Wow, I am in love with this. Whatever this is, I love it." So,
Yeah.
saved up some money and got that big boy, and
And,
it was a very
now
good
that
purchase.
now that we're looking at like show configurations, like for what you do on your show, I'm thinking like the 2 of these together is a powerful combination for the kinds of things you want to do on your show. Being able to like use one looper to do certain things, and then
Right.
use the big boy for like
Yeah.
the like jam sessions.
Yeah, and another
Yep.
good thing about this piece is it's also an audio interface. So
Yeah.
no longer do you need to buy one of those. This kind of covers all bases. And these buttons down here act as controllers. So, like, if you're in your DAW
this
and
is-
you want to hit record, well, you just assign it to one of these buttons.
This
You
is
wanna
future
back up?
proof.
Yeah, it's pretty
It's
cool.
all at
Piece of gear.
96 as far as the quality of the sound that it can capture. It is designed for tomorrow's standards. Most of us are still in 44 and 48
Yeah.
and gonna be there
yeah.
for a long time to come. So
And,
that thing
here's
is
my other-
good to go for like another decade.
That's how because,
Oh.
when you record 2
I didn't know
tracks
you
together.
had that one too.
Oh yeah, that's the Boss GT6. That's a nice piece of machinery right there. I'm actually running an acoustic guitar through this, and it's giving me some hellacious tone.
Yeah.
That ovation, yeah.
Yeah, and I've noticed, when you record 2 tracks, and there's my vocal pedal. That's actually a guitar pedal, but I took
Oh,
out some of the
that's what you're
distortion.
running.
Yeah.
That's what you're running your mic
And
into.
I've
That
got
sucker is bright.
Yeah, it is. My microphone is going into that, and so is this little keyboard I've got. I've got a little
Cord?
show you. Yeah, a little mini cord.
Yeah, those are. Oh, you even put the keys on there, huh?
Yeah, yeah. I'm novice when it comes to that,
Oh.
and that's a teaching tool,
Yep.
That's a
See-
good way to. That's a good way to memorize them.
Yeah.
Got
So
a great
now-
workspace layout there too.
Oh, yeah, thank you, sir. So now I got the keyboard set up, analog. I've got the microphone. I've got a guitar with plenty of sounds, and so I could start a loop with the keyboard. Get something going there. I'm trying to think of something. Let me think of. Here we go. I'll try a little bass line with the keyboard.
I would add that boom, 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 boom.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Boom, 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 boom. There you go.
Okay, so I looped that. And apparently I looped my voice in there too. Sorry about that, folks. Okay, so I looped that. Sorry. Okay, so I looped that. Okay, so I looped that. And the drums just pick right into it. Okay, so I looped that. Okay, so I looped that. Okay, so I looped that.
This would be
Okay, so I looped
dangerous
that.
in Ange's hands.
Okay.
Ange would go nuts.
Okay, so I looped that. Okay, so I looped that. Okay, so I looped that.
Apologize for your untimeliness.
Okay, so I looped that.
Apologize for your untimeliness.
Okay, so I looped that. Boom, and then you got the kill switch. You know, that one on the left, it just kills everything.
That's
So
awesome.
sometimes these loops will get wacky, and you'll be like, "What am I doing?"
I think Rock Bottom Beats is right. This one is called Okay, so I looped that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, and
Yeah,
Evelyn's
yeah.
Gate was mentioning the line sixes, because I've heard a lot of guitarists love that one too.
Yes, sir.
That's one I'd love to see in action.
I
you ever want
actually started with that one.
to bring that bad boy on and show it
The line
off?
six. I have that one. It's like a gold color, and who did I see use that? What got me into looping was damn,
Yeah, there's
what
like
is his name?
four guys on Band Lab that I've talked to who
Okay.
just swear by those.
Yeah. Reggie Watts. I don't know if anybody's familiar with him. He's on the Conan show, the Conan O'Brien show. He had some really cool YouTube videos back, I don't know, about 6 or 7 years ago. And I was amazed. I was like, oh my God, he's building an entire song right in my face. And I was like, I love that. I want to do that. So,
And you know,
still
even
striving
in a
to-
club or on the street, when you see
Yeah.
impressive loopers,
Yeah, yeah.
people start to forget like that they're building loops, like because they're watching it in real time. It doesn't
Yeah.
have that kind of stigmatism of like, ooh, you're using loops in your beat
Yeah,
kind of
no,
loop.
it's
When
it's
you
an
watch
okay thing.
somebody do it and make the loop and then add to it, it's actually like watching somebody perform to an orchestra as they build the orchestra.
Right. Another thing we do with it, I'll have some buddies come over and we'll just be fucking around, before practice or something. And we'll all plug into it and it's just fun. You know what I mean? Like I've discovered little tunes that we made up just, having fun. And I'm like, oh, these are actually pretty good. You can,
Get some
you
nuggets
can
of
hear
ideas
people
there. You can
laughing in the
expand on stuff,
background
yeah.
and shit. It's cool.
It really does simplify the
does.
songwriting process to the part.
Yeah.
You start thinking of the timing and the riff, and that's the simplest part of songwriting. That's what
Yeah.
gets you started.
Yeah. Sitting around the campfire, getting something going. Yeah.
Yeah, the faster that you do it, the faster you go from conception to
Yes.
release.
Boom. Right. That's where it comes in handy, is that immediate, I don't know, it captures, that moment. that you got going on. Whereas when you're messing with a mouse, you kind of lose a little bit of that. You're like, oh, hold on, let me
definitely
reset,
messing with the mouse.
update. Yeah,
Yeah,
you can
If
lose
you're
a lot of that feeling.
if you're that feel kind of musician, and most of the time the song that you're writing that's spurting out of you comes out of nowheres, and it goes just as fast as it came in. The faster you can make the emotion out in music, the better. It might not be there the next day.
There's also nobody left out in terms of this is not just a guitar player's tool. It's not just a keyboard player's tool. Like, the vocalist can use this.
That's
Anybody
any
can
musician's
use this.
tool.
And for the timing, for the rhythms that are on there, I mean, there's the ones that are built in. Those are a good place to start. But the fact that you can build the loop so easily, like once you're comfortable with how you build the loop, building loops with just doing, you can do hand claps and drums with your mouth, beatbox, whatever. You can get just a basic idea of something in there, and you can come back to it later and revisit it with real drums.
Yeah.
But just getting something in the right timing is the important part.
Yeah, it's very versatile.
And it's not just useful for the songwriting; it's just as good for the song practicing. Because
Exactly.
Glenn loaded his with like all sorts of tracks so that he could just sit there and jam to like Fish or the Dead all day long.
Yep. I put in a bunch of songs that I was working on. I put in at least a dozen that are jam tracks where it's, slow, jam track, backing track in A minor or whatever. And just like, 10 minutes long, just throw that on for like practicing to work on soloing or whatever. Some of them are loops that I was working on, just building them up, just like you were doing there, building them layer by layer. Some of them are just song ideas where like I have a nugget of an idea in my head and I just want to get it down real quick. I can just hit the looper and, pick a blank track and boom, and just lay something down to come and revisit later. Yeah, and see, it's definitely great for all those things.
That's a good way to lay down your exercises. If you really do want to like learn all your scales, then a couple of practice tracks laid out in your looper like that, the way that you did it, Glenn, you can set up a jam track for every key, and that way you run through your exercises. Like, I'm going to go through track 1 through 7 here and play all these major keys, and then I'm going to go track 8 to 14.
Yep. And do all the minor keys, sure. And you can do them either way. You can get them. And the other thing is, again,
and then you could fill more for you could put all those modes in there. I mean, you could literally make practice tracks for every scale that you wanted to practice. And then if you were really determined every day, you'd go through them and do your jams for so many measures.
Yeah, and you don't have to have a computer around. You don't have to have an amplifier around. You don't have to have a DAW around. You can have just a pair of headphones, microphone.
Play that shit in the park,
anywhere you want to be.
Exactly. Yeah, because I believe this sucker takes batteries. Let me look and make sure.
The RC30 I know does. That's
the big one. I'd be surprised.
The big one I would be surprised, but that one in the middle one.
Okay, it doesn't.
I want to say it's like 4 or 6 AA's. Probably 6 AA's for the RC30.
Yeah, the big one would take those big ass D's these days. In the old days, you wanted something that could do that. Like, the boom boxes, they had like 6 D's.
They'll last for 2 days and that was it. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, actually, the workaround for that is we've got a little trailer that we're going to pull behind my truck and load it up with gear and take it to the beach and just go rock. We're going to try that Halloween this year.
The Slithermobile.
Yeah, we're gonna do it. We're gonna decorate
worry about
it
permits,
up.
or are you just gonna go out?
Well, fuck that. We
don't
care about all that.
Bring the cameras.
We'll rock the tops.
Bring the cameras.
Yeah. I've actually talked to an eatery place at the beach that wants to have bands, but they're still not having them because of COVID. And so they found a nice little spot off to the left next to a huge, there's like an old fort, like a Civil War fort out there, that.
Nice.
So like we're going to pull right up next to that. So the wall's going to kind of push our amplification out. We're using Bluetooth speakers. We're using the workaround for this not having batteries is we're going to use, those jumpers.
Low power technology.
Yeah. It's very low power, so it doesn't take a lot. But I'm going to plug it into those booster boxes. The booster boxes that you can jump your car with that has like plug-ins on it and shit like that, and they run forever.
Mm-hmm.
I got 4 of those from Home Depot last year just for this. I've been wanting to do like a kind of like a flash jam. Pull up. Everything's hooked up. You just
flash
turn it on
mob
and
for
rock.
musicians.
Yeah. Yes. So
Very cool.
this is a great way to put like backing tracks, for the song. And, I use it for all kind of things. I try vocal harmonies with it. It's just unlimited what you can do with it.
Your creativity is your only limitation, and
Yeah, and your storage capacity.
you are unlimited.
Right on.
Ah,
Appreciate
definitely.
that, buddy.
some awesome stuff.
Yeah. Right on. But, and then, another thing you can do with it is if the crowd's not really into what you're doing, like say you're sucking or whatever, you can add some clapping
Yeah.
and make it sound like people like it, and they'll start clapping. They'll be like, "Oh, people are clapping."
It's
It's that subliminal nudge.
Exactly.
It's that first dollar in the jar.
And I've actually been implementing this a lot with, we were doing the Metal Mondays, and Jason Jacobs is hooking that up now. So we're on Saturday in the sewer. So yeah, I use it for sound effects and all kinds of
We got a
shit.
really nice spread, like
We
metal.
do. We
Metal
do.
has spread itself out around the weekend. So like my
That's what it
Saturdays and
should.
my Mondays, I finish the week moshing. I start the week moshing.
That's it.
I'm
That's
loving it.
Yeah.
the
And
way to do it.
Saturdays is primarily metal, but it also has a mix of other things too. So it's kind
Actually,
of a bridge.
it was really cool to see you diverge and play some different tracks.
Hell yeah. When something's good, it's good. I wouldn't say that I am a hip hop person, but I've definitely tapped my foot to some things I've heard. I'm like, hey,
I've seen you.
This is badass.
I've seen you starting to like experiment on
Yeah, I got a little bit of
getting your groove out after
I
you
got a
heard
little bit of
Bobby.
jiggy. Yeah. Yeah, Bobby's killing it right now, man. Love the energy.
Definitely.
But yeah, so that's one way to make music. Go get yourself a looper. Have fun with it.
Yeah, it's definitely a good songwriting tool.
Mm-hmm.
I hope that we continue to explore different songwriting approaches, because I'm trying to refine mine and redefine mine, and this is one way that I haven't assimilated to yet, and I should. I mean, being a keyboardist, you would think
Yeah,
like I would have been looping decades ago, because
Yeah.
in MIDI it's so easy, but
Right.
it's part the mindset. You are actually like already naturally inclined for it.
I try. Oh, come on. Come on.
Be nice
No.
now. Come on, everybody.
Come on. I try.
Let's hear it one more time for Slither.
All right, that's
right.
better.
There you go.
How fun is that?
Got it.
Uh,
I like the buzzer that you had there too. Like
Mhm.
somebody
Oh,
says this.
the buzzer has become essential. Joe now speaks to me in buzzer and,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. If
sound
I don't like
effects.
something, man, yeah.
I have come to like hear him speak. Yes.
Yeah, you can record your toilet in this thing. So many.
Because who wouldn't want to do that?
You
Well,
can
we need
even
to
make
get-
a baby boo. If
Yeah.
you've never been baby booed, it's the worst when a baby boos you. Oh my god, that's terrible. How bad do you feel right now?
What did I do?
The baby can't even speak yet.
Even a
And
baby
even he knows you suck.
pisses you off.
I know.
Oh,
And when
that's
we do reviews on things, we can add the like say, ooh,
Mhm.
this is the boss loop station.
Gotta
Who's
get the
not?
gong. Gotta get a gong.
I know that's
we
hard
got
to
the buzzer.
find, believe it
But
or not.
use the buzzer instead of the gong. That works.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, I'd like to sample the original gong from the Gong Show. Like
you go.
that.
I like that buzzer though.
The buzzer's awesome. That's going to be in the game show. We're going to do Super Carry fucking Dookie,
Nice.
folks, Saturday in the sewer. We're going to try it anyway. It might fall on its face, but we'll figure it out. We're going to incorporate some sonobus in the action so we can do some real live time jamming and
Yep.
pull out some of Tony's karaoke therapy,
Got a
and
lot of them over there.
oh yeah, and you pick your genre, and then we spin the mouse. I don't know how we're gonna do that, but we'll spin the mouse and whatever.
Actually, I'll get a little animation of a mouse that
Yeah,
we can
we'll
twirl.
figure something out. Yeah, we'll figure something out. We'll throw something around and make it land on something, and you get to choose, and you can get a free spin if you see nothing on the page that you can get down on. Then we'll give you a free spin.
Or if anybody out there is looking for a song to cover and they don't see it in there,
Yeah,
send me a
there you
message.
go.
And
I've done that, and Tony and
I-
Chuck's right on it, man.
I do a lot of requests.
That's
I
awesome.
mean, it takes me time sometimes,
Yeah,
but it
sure.
depends on the request.
Yeah,
And whether
yeah,
it's
Tony's
whether there's notation.
he's working on Billie Jean Beat It for me. We're gonna try to metal that shit up. It's
Yeah,
gonna
man.
be awesome.
I actually was thinking of an orchestral version. One of the copies I have has a nice like orchestral. I could turn it into a complete classical piece.
Oh yeah, that'd be cool too. Around breaking young girls' hearts.
Hey, hey, hey!
The looper is also good if you can't sing and play at the same time. Boom.
Yeah.
And
Record
that's
your
where
guitar part and then
I
sing.
should be utilizing it.
And that's where I should be utilizing it too.
Yeah.
That's
when
big
I,
for me.
when I try to sing and play at the same time, sometimes I can do it, but sometimes it really blows my brain out my fucking ears.
I know what you mean. Like for me, it was always very tough, and I've only just started to be able to do it on certain songs. It really
Yeah.
depends what's going on. So like if we're in rehearsal, I'll just try it, and like if it totally throws off my bass line, I just shut up. Like I just stop singing
you
and go
just
back to
gotta
playing.
Whoa,
bass.
because it's hard
Yeah.
enough to stay in key, and
It-
then you're doing
it
something else
always-
at the same time. Like whoa.
It always blows my brains out my ears because I'm having a hard enough time getting my hands to cooperate and the fingers on them.
Right.
Like the easiest for me is to close my eyes and let my hands do what they do.
Yeah.
But sometimes when you're trying to play other shit, like other people's things, I have to think about what I'm doing
Exactly.
so hard.
Yeah.
If I'm just playing out of my groove, I'm not even paying attention. I close my eyes and then
Yeah,
my
it's-
hands do what they do. No
Yeah.
thought involved.
Right. Yeah, I'm saying I'm the same way. I'm mostly a guitarist, but I dabble with drums and keys and vocals, bass. I'm fascinated with it all. I'd love to be able to sing and play at the same time. For some reason, there's a piece of my DNA that's missing.
Same here.
That's
Now-
It
why.
comes down to
Now, do you? How about like if while you're playing drums or
No,
bass? Is there
not
one?
so much.
Is there one
Mm-mm.
that you feel like I'm more comfortable singing while I do
No,
that?
if I'm gonna sing, I just need to hear the music and just hold that microphone and
And
turn the
just
lights
sing.
down and go at it. And
Yeah.
and I can hit some notes there, but yeah, if I'm trying to do something else at the same time, or if something's on my mind, I cannot find that key. Get on that
or you-
note.
Or you sing like the part you're playing. So I guess
that's
if
what
you're going to
happens
play
to me, yeah.
drums, you start
Right.
singing like you're drumming.
Exactly.
well, actually,
That's-
drumming wouldn't be as bad for me. Bass
Might
is the
not be.
worst. Bass is
Yeah.
the worst. I like for guitar. I find that like when
Or
I
the
mean,
best.
using Grateful
Bass-
Dead as an example.
Bass
with
could be
Grateful
the
Dead-
best.
With
Because
Grateful Dead,
all you bassists are good singers. You become
Well,
good singers from your
it comes
bass.
down to the timing though. The timing of the bass line
timing.
usually isn't with the melody. Like
Right.
the bass is doing something else than what the melody and the vocal are doing.
Yeah.
So like
And one
there's
of them's gonna
conflict there. So
go
like
off the
for me,
rails.
it's and like you were saying a second ago, I either sing what I'm playing on the bass, or I try to
Yep.
play what I'm singing instinctively because my
But
brain
that's
is
why
trying to
you guys
follow
work
along.
good as why you guys work good as background singers though. Because if you are playing to the bass lines and doing backgrounds during say those choruses, it lends itself to the counter singing.
And that's what I've started to find out. Like I've just started literally the last couple of weeks. It started to make some sense at rehearsals.
It's
where,
the
you know,
Michael Anthony effect.
just getting that started. Yeah.
It's
the
okay to
Michael
be a
Anthony
background
effect.
singer.
Drums are easier. Keys are a little bit easier. Keys are still not great on keys. So for me, I have to focus still a lot on the keys. So I can see where that can be tricky. But with guitar, it's like you don't, if you're singing, you're not playing a complicated melody line generally. You're just comping. You're just doing little chords behind yourself. So you're just kind of chugga 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 back there while you're doing the singing. And then when you come out to do a little, you know, melody line or riff or whatever, and then back to the singing. So it's kind of back and forth. You know, you're taking turns. Whereas with the bass, you're trying to do the bass line the whole time and trying to sing the line the whole time. So that's where it's difficult for me. It started to make sense, but it is one of those things. Just like with drumming, when I first started, like doing two things was easy, but getting a third thing to happen was messing me all up. Like I could do the kick and the snare, but you try to add any third thing, and it would just mess me all up. Now it's like I could do three things fine, but a fourth thing is still messing me all up. But I can see the progression, and I can see where it's leading to. You know.
Plus, you got to be sexy.
And
you've got to maintain the sexiness.
Oh,
absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
How many drummers pull off singing and sexy?
A couple.
I mean, Phil Collins, I think was the
name.
most impressive, like singing. He sang some complex shit and actually played decent drums while he did it. And drummers, when you think about it, it's not two things they're doing. Every extension of a drummer is doing something on a drum.
Dude, I've seen hours and hours and hours of footage of Phil Collins concerts and just fucking around, and he never hits a sour note. There's something about that man's voice. He just opens his mouth and it just goes right where it needs to go.
And he's just as good of a drummer. Like he literally could have been either one, and he would have been successful as either one. The fact that he's one of those rare drummer singers, because you don't see a lot of those.
That was cool. Yeah, he took that spot over very nicely.
Now they got the
headset.
headset.
I saw it was Genesis.
Oh, you saw Genesis live?
Very cool.
Way back when.
Way back
when. It was very cool. That was down in North Carolina.
Yeah, Genesis was a fantastic progressive band. I think they were key to the shift from the 70s to 80s sound, the incorporation of synthesizers and world music. They were like Yes, you know, one of those transitional bands between the 70s and 80s.
And hard to pin down to, you know, a specific genre or whatever.
Progressive like that, you can't pin down. That progressive, it's not one genre. It's multiple genres that are progressive in themselves.
Mm-hmm. Good stuff. I remember, I think it was at that show. At one point, the song "The Mother." You remember the song "Mother"? Like at one point, like stopped. You was ha ha, like right in the
killer.
Well, when he did that at that concert, I mean, my seats were way, way, way up in the top. So I mean, we had like the worst seats in the entire house. But when they cut to that part, they literally killed all the stage lights and had one spotlight, like a yellow spotlight, coming up from underneath on his face as he like went to somebody in the first row, like ha ha, and just you heard the gasp from like everybody within like 50 yards. I was like, whoa, it was very cool.
He's a bad boy, for sure.
That was a long time ago.
Yeah.
When Glenn was a wee 6 foot.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I was over. Let's see, I hit 6'3" when I was 13, and now I'm 6'6". So yeah.
Not over 6 foot still.
Yep.
6'3" when you're 15. Is that what you
13?
Said? 13. Wow.
13 years old. Yep.
Did you play any ball?
They must.
A little bit of basketball.
Basketball coaches must have been going after your ass at that
basketball
age.
Coaches were the football coaches.
You're
were.
like.
Mm-hmm.
I had some knee issues though, so like growing that fast, my knees weren't happy about it. So I didn't play for long. I did do track and field later on, but
the football coach is the other one that's going to be looking at you at 13.
Yep.
You can't play basketball. How do you feel about football?
6'3", 235 pounds on first day of freshman year of high school. So
you can block and run.
Yeah.
Well, the running I was not usually very big on.
Yeah.
I'm a musician, not a player.
Yeah.
It's like being a lover or a fighter. In high school, I chose music over sports.
Yeah, for me it was video games. but I did do some music. I did do some sports, but the music, it was mostly the piano lessons from when I was a kid. So I was more of a keyboard person back then. And actually in high school, I took a jazz improvisation class, and that's where we started talking about the circle of fifths and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But
Where
I mean,
you would
I
have
couldn't,
to.
I
You
couldn't
would
improvise
have to
for
talk about
anything
that.
though. I couldn't improvise for my life because I learned keyboard from a classical background, and everything was you play it as it is on the paper, and you play it the way you hear it here. Everything was about mimicry. You're playing,
And it wasn't
just
as
like
fun
that.
for you. You
Right,
didn't
no.
have, you didn't jump on that like you have like with BandLab and everything you're doing now.
Exactly.
Because the over technical, you know, what Snave was saying earlier, you know, too much theory or over technical. If your natural inclination is to pick it up and play, go with that.
And that was the thing, is even when I got the bass and the guitar, you know, not that long ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, I got the bass and the guitar, and I got a bunch of books, like, you know, tablature, you know, here's an acoustic guitar tab book, and here's an electric guitar tab book or a bass tab book. And then I realized, like, as I'm going through, I can read tab and I can make it work, but it was still kind of time consuming and more of a struggle than if I just put the song on and when my ear was getting good enough where I could just listen to it and play along. And I was like, this is so much easier. So I just started
At
doing
this
it by
point,
ear.
not only are you like learning all that there, you're teaching it, because you're refreshing me on so many things that didn't jive with me back then either. Now they make more sense. Like after 20 years of pounding on the keyboard, that has finally started to settle in my brain. So I got everything he was saying simply because I know what these terms do mean.
Yep. And new
Because
things
I'm
make
starting
sense.
to implement them.
And new things make sense as you go forward in time. Like, you know, as you know, a particular nugget of information that you may have gotten 5 years ago maybe went right over your head because you weren't at that point in your playing or your understanding of whatever you were doing.
When
and now
you finally
hear it repeated, and
are
you're like,
implementing.
oh, that, yeah.
Yeah. The moment that you have something to do it in, or you realize that you're doing it.
Right,
you know,
right.
That's what's been making it click for me. It's like, oh, I'm already doing this. So
Yep.
now I know what it's called.
Exactly. Now I know what it's called. It's awesome.
Improv.
Oh, Joe, you are all over these modes. we got to go through that mode video we watched like a month and a half ago. You are all over those modal shifts.
One of the ways I try to figure out what mode we're in, because we're talking about, you know, this song's in major or it's in minor, but you can tell that there's something different about it. Usually, because I'm expecting, if we're playing in a major, that I'm expecting the 1, the 4, and the 5 are going to be major. So if the song is doing anything major that is not the 1 or the 4 or the 5, you know you're not in your standard mode, or you know you borrowed that chord from somewhere else. So if I'm assuming they didn't borrow that chord, then I'm assuming it came, you know, and if it's shifted, you're in Dorian, you're going from minor to that major 4. That's what tells you you're in the Dorian mode. So each one has kind of a signature move that you can kind of tell what you're in.
Yeah, that defines the change. Now, do you know your chords there?
Do I know what I was playing right there?
First, because I do know what you're playing there. It's the B.
When I turn my tuner on, I do.
The E. That's a.
It's a A sharp.
Well, B flat.
Or B
based
flat,
on
depending.
based on the scale that you're actually in,
To
I
an
think. To an A. To an E.
Which I think this is Phrygian.
Yes, this is where you go into that.
Now, I tuned to drop D, so I'm getting these weird chords, so it blows my mind. I'm like, oh, I thought I knew everything, but now that I'm in
how
D,
you really fucked me up
weird.
with that one, because you variate that last note, the E. Sometimes it's not an E. Every once in a while, you slide it, and as I was trying to figure it out, I was... Every time I thought I was starting to get the E, I realized, like, wait a minute, he's doing something else.
and that's where that other pedal comes into play, because usually when you play the same, what would that be, an effect or a tone or something, when you play it on top of itself, it kind of cancels out some of the sounds.
Yeah, especially if if they're in the same frequencies, especially in parallel. Like if you have something in the equal spectrum on both sides and they're going at the exact same frequencies, it can actually cancel each other out. That's how they make karaoke tracks these days.
Okay.
They reverse the waveform in the center.
Yeah.
And in the old days, vocals used to all be recorded in the center, so you can remove them by reversing them and putting them on the opposite side of each other. That's a nice way to go out. Angie's gonna be going into pumpkin mode, but want to thank you all on Band Lab for joining us, hanging with Joe, playing with his looper, Glenn with the sweet, sweet voice.
Always a pleasure.
This really does make you reflect. You're right, Joe.
Yeah.
I will bring the fire.
Bring it.
I'll use up this whole motherfucking lighter. Although I have to use it for a second. Don't forget to tune in Saturday for the sewer.
Don't you forget it.
Jigga Joe is bringing it.
7 p.m. Saturday night, Eastern,
Alright,
till 10. Good night, friends.
till 10. Shit, I'll just be catching a buzz at 10.
We might go to midnight. You never know.
Saturdays tend to go late.
How would that be? Saturdays are magic.
Oh, a little journey. She used to love.
Yeah.
She used to dance.
Yeah.